Hello. Welcome to this checkpoint session. That is something we do generally in our hackathons to see how you're doing, if you have any issues, also to give some clarifications from our side. And there is no concrete agenda. So as you can see, it will be just and me. And we are here to mainly to reply questions that you might have, any doubts. So yeah, but to start, first of all, we want to see that we want to say that we are very happy how this is going. It was very surprising to see that in the first 2 days the number of registrations doubled. So that's a very good sign. And we could see that also from the number of ideas before the hackathon started. There were like 3 only, and now we have 12, and all of them very, very interesting. Maybe Josh will comment a little bit on that afterwards. In terms of clarifications, and I think that was mentioned in the chats, some of you were asking, this deliverable 1, is that compulsory? Am I out of this hackathon if I do not submit anything? So the answer is no, it's not compulsory. But we might use that information in case we have like 2 teams that are competing for, I don't know, the 3rd place, and they are very close in terms of scoring. We might use this timing aspect to give extra points to one of the 2. So no compulsory. You can leave it empty if you want. You can submit still new ideas. It's not late. You can do that until the very last minute. I hope not the last minute, but a bit before. But yeah, don't be too stressed about that. But the reason why we do that is because in previous hackathons, everybody was submitting everything at the end, and then it was a bit difficult, or maybe all of a sudden to have to evaluate all the proposals. So it's good to see little by little how things are progressing, and also it's good for you actually to get some advice. I saw that Josh was commenting in some of the projects, and I hope that was useful for you as well. So I think you should be sharing as soon as you have something. I think it would be beneficial for you, but up to you. You are not obliged to respect the timings. That was the only clarification I have to give today. Also, if you remember, we said that there is in Rocket Chat, there is a channel called For Fun, which is for you to, we wanted to put a mini challenge for the funniest picture so that you can give a little extra thing apart from the swag bag that you will get if you participate. And maybe I will share my screen. Because maybe some of you didn't see that yet, but there was some pictures to. Yeah, obviously, well, Mikel started it, Michele, with just a picture to break the ice, and then Floris, he put this very nice selfie of himself and the team. I think it transmits very well what a hackathon is about. And then we have this one from Arne, which I didn't get it at the beginning, the joke, because I'm from my old programming times, I was using in Java exceptions, but I didn't know that evolved to throwables. So for me, I saw the picture, nice dog, but then okay, and then I Google it, and indeed throwables is something that you use in programming, which at my times it was not something that common. So we find that picture very, very funny. And then this one from Ivo as well, more chilling out, but being part of the hackathon as well. Also expressing the mood of working from anywhere and good vibes. So we discussed these pictures internally, and the one we like the most is the one from Arne. So we think it was a very funny joke. And so Arne, if you are here, just to we will talk to you later. We will give you a small detail in addition to the swag bag. So congratulations for that. But please continue posting pictures. It's very nice to see how you're working. I think it helps to transmit this mood of collaboration and so yes, please do not hesitate to upload more stuff. We really like it. So go ahead with that. And that's it from me. I don't think I missed anything. So I see some questions, but let me read them a bit. And in the meantime, I pass it over to you just in case you want to say something from your side.
All right. Hey, everyone. Yeah, as Miguel already said, really thanks for all the good ideas. Indeed, it's not pens down next week, but until pretty much the 9th of May, you can, improve your apps. Keep working on it. We will, of course, be looking at it and then deciding which ones are the best. But, till the last minute, you can keep working on it. In case you're wondering why I'm wearing such bright orange, I'm Dutch. I legally have to. On the 27th of April, all Dutch people have to wear orange because that's the birthday of our king. So, what can we do? And while I live in Germany, so, they won't find me if I don't do it. I still try to follow the tradition. There are a few other Dutch people, I think, in the program, so they will know what I'm talking about. And I hope they're properly wearing orange as well. So, yeah, I went a bit over the different ideas. Miguel earlier asked me if I had any general thoughts on the ideas. And I said, well, it's kind of hard because there are a pretty wide variety of ideas. I do like them. Many of them are really very creative, very interesting. I wanted to emphasize again that if at all possible, try to improve an existing thing in Nextcloud instead of building an app, because if you build a new app, this will then have to be maintained going forward. And we don't know, of course, if you will have time for that later on. And of course, we also can't. I would not want to make a decision based on that either. So yeah, we have really a preference for improvements to existing things like work on deck indeed, or but in some cases there are corner cases or places where it does make sense, of course. Pierre asked a couple of complicated questions here, which I think I will try to answer a bit. So this is about the SCIM app that he's trying to develop. Let me see if I can quickly open this app description here so I can a bit better, Okay, why does it now show no ideas found? Okay, that is interesting. I loaded the ideas, but it's not giving me anything.
Just 1 second, Josh. That's because the phase changed and we need to move all the ideas in the next one. So give me 1 second and you'll have it.
Because I have some of them still open, but I don't think I have 10 of them open, but just, of course, not this one, because that would be too easy, right?
All right, you can refresh now and it should be all good.
Okay, yeah, I found the one. So this is automatically sync SSO users to Nextcloud. So this was about Keycloak. And it's funny because I believe we also use Keycloak internally in Nextcloud. So that's kind of interesting. Although the problem with this one in particular is that technically I don't understand even 1% of it, just to be clear. And I think even in Nextcloud we'll have to look for somebody who understands a little bit, what this does exactly, how it works. But your question, you say basically to do this, I forked the provisioning API, but you think that the provision API should be implementing this protocol. You say you've been working on it and want to maintain it. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, this is something indeed to discuss, because if the provisioning API should be this API, if you think it should be, I mean, maybe that makes sense. I cannot really judge that on a technical level, but I think I kind of understand where you're coming from. This is more of a standard. It might make sense. But of course, the thing is that we would then have to maintain the old API as well, right? So while I don't think it's impossible to merge the two apps so that we have a V1 API, the old API, and a V2, we've done that in other parts of Nextcloud, like introducing a new API for something. Like maybe it does make sense. This is something, we'd have to ask developers. Maybe you can shoot me an email about this, and then I can try and find somebody in engineering who can say something smart about it. It might make sense, but then that doesn't mean the old API would go away, at least not initially, right? We try to keep APIs around for, I don't know how long, but, a long time, I think. Julius, who's in the chat, can probably say something how long we normally do that, but I think it's pretty long, several years. But yeah, maybe it's interesting. So shoot me a mail about that, and I will try to get an answer to you about that. So let me see. There was, I think, were there other questions already? If not, then what I can do is I go quickly through some of the ideas and talk about them. I think there's no other feedback yet, huh?
No,
okay.
no.
There are new questions. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
From Joao. Also from Joao, there are, yeah. But Julius replied. No, that's a different one. Sorry.
Jean, I can answer that not exactly in terms of numbers, but the majority of numbers is definitely on Nextcloud 22 and 23. Certainly 21 is not used that much anymore. I would say it's about 40-40 between Nextcloud 22 and 23, 40% each. And the last 20% is either already playing with Nextcloud 24 or some one of the older releases. Like the vast majority of our users keeps up fairly well. So when Nextcloud 24 comes out, a month later we will stop supporting Nextcloud 21, and I think its use will then drop dramatically. So no, let me see. We will then drop 22 actually. So then its use will drop dramatically. So I think that just supporting 23, if you currently have the app already built for 21 and 22, what you can do is you just keep that version available for those versions. And then you put your new efforts on 23 and then later 24. I think that from a user base perspective, that makes sense. Because in 3 months' time, most people will be using 23 and 24, like 70-80%. That's really, I expect that. People move fairly quickly in Nextcloud because we're moving quick too, and people want all the good new stuff, right? Of course they do. So, yeah, I think that's fine. I see that Julius agreed that it's good to discuss in the community chat with the engineers about the app, whether you should integrate it or not. I think just come to the chat there and discuss it there. Then Flores asked, we're developing on 24 or build for 23. So 24 comes out on coming Tuesday, so next week, in a few days. For the judging, it will not make any difference if you pick 23 or 24. I would suggest it also probably doesn't make a huge difference in terms of APIs and everything. The changes between the releases are usually not so big because we go with a new release 3 times a year. So it's relatively small incremental changes. It would be, for an app, like you need to just look at what's a master, you know, like if you're working on an app, let's say the deck app, then of course, if you're developing a feature that's already done, that doesn't work, but you'll have to align usually with the development there. If you're building a separate app, then it's different. Then you need to target, of course, a Nextcloud release. And then I think if you target 23, it will work on 24. But it's not a problem if you go for 24 instead, honestly. I hope that answers I hope that answers the question. Let me see if there are other questions. If not, then I can simply comment a little bit on some of the ideas if people want. All right. So as I had a look at the ideas, so we already talked about the SSO sync from Pierre, which is, I think, it's a nice idea, and I think it's useful. Let's discuss how to do it best in the community chat. There was a proposal about markdown graphics with Plant UML and Save4 model from Jesus Riviera and 3 other people. I will try not to butcher all the names, so I will just stop at this. It's interesting because this is bringing UML, Universal Markup Language, to Nextcloud. It's funny, I worked on that with that in a previous live as well. I'm not entirely sure if the idea is to make them visible or editable or to integrate something with Nextcloud text or something, because there is a markdown mentioned that you can use them in plain markdown with the Plant UML library. I hope for a bit more explanation of this one, because I'm not really clear what the goal is. I mean, using diagrams, I mean, does it mean editing them? Does that mean viewing them? A viewer is, of course, nice. But I would hope that that's not super complicated. Editing is, of course,
minutes, and then it's
live streaming is on.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, people, I think we're back. Sorry, the live stream decided we weren't cool enough anymore and restarted. So I was already done with the other one, and I didn't say anything in between, I hope, so that's good. I really like the Trello deck translation bridge idea from Ivo, Ben, and Auke. I can safely pronounce their names because they're Dutch. I mean, as I said in the comments, I think it's really ambitious to have a live sync between deck and Trello, that when a user changes something in one, it changes in the other. It's cool, but it's like, I would personally first work on like a clean import and export, because I bet with this is really, in my feeling, one of these things where if you start to implement it, you will discover 20 things that take much longer than you expected. You know, like you need to map the users. Of course, if it change, especially if you want to support making changes again, right? Because then you need a permanent mapping. So I would really start with just making an import work one time, because I think it's already hard enough to then allow somebody to import again into the same board to override changes in the right way. It's like, good luck with that. I think that's already, then you're syncing. That's really hard. I mean, I know a little bit from the pains of the syncing client. I know a little bit how hard it is to sync things. It's a whole different game from importing and exporting. So I would start with the import and export. And if those work smooth and have a good interface, then of course looking at sync is really cool. I mean, it's very interesting. And who knows, if you can pull it off, then well, my hat's off to you. Then there was an idea called skills and contribution. I'm not entirely sure what this is about. So it's about a couple of like chart applications, integrating them in Nextcloud to track contributions and growing skills. But I don't know contributions to what and skills in what. If that was meant to connect to an existing platform or to build something new, which is challenging. I pointed to an app, the Analytics app, which is actually a really cool app. Let me see if I can also paste it in the chat here. So the analytics app is an app by Nextcloud contributor that can analyze anything. It's a really flexible application where you can basically give it data sources, and then it can make graphs of that, and then if you have a data source like a temperature sensor, you connect it to that, and then you get, after a week, you get a graph of like the temperature, per hour or something. It can visualize all kinds of stuff. The source can be like a file or, an API somewhere, all kinds of stuff. So, to track progress in something, if you have a source for the something, then maybe that's already, there. And I mean, I would then pick, something that doesn't really duplicate something that's already there, honestly. I think that's just nicer. Then we had the file discussions. So this was about integrating Rocket Chat in a way that you can chat in the sidebar of a Nextcloud file. So right now, Nextcloud has like comments on a file, and you have also a chat, which is Nextcloud Talk Chat. And this would add then a Rocket Chat to it. I think it's a nice idea. I mean, to improve integration of Rocket Chat is of course cool. I mean, it's here integrated in the website, right? We're using it here. Rocket Chat's pretty cool. I mean, it's a little bit duplicated, right? Because there are already 2 other chat options there. But I can imagine if you're a company using Rocket Chat, then it's helpful. And otherwise I don't have other big input on the idea. I mean, you'll have to figure out, of course, the technical side of it, but I think it is possible. You can look at how Talk was done. It might be at least be able to hook into similar APIs. I know the sidebar is done in Vue.js. At least I think so. Julius, feel free to unmute yourself and correct me, but I think it's in Vue.js, so that might make it doable to implement that. Yeah. All right. So then there's counting cards, an improvement to deck from Flores. So the idea was to count cards. I already commented there, I'm not really sure what you meant with the counting, but in your text you mentioned lead deals, and I have the idea that maybe you're talking about sales. I think the challenge with this one really is if you want to add a property to cards, which you can then count, that's an interesting idea. But of course, the question then is how do you exactly make this? If you make the property for a specific thing, for sales, I don't know, deal size, and then you have an overview where you can see the number of deals in the pipeline and the amount of money it's worth. That's interesting, of course, but it's very specific. There's one use case, which is if you're using Deck as a sales team. On the other hand, if you try to make it generic that you can count anything, then you have the problem that it's really hard to make a user interface that's easy, right? Otherwise, because it often gets very confusing if you have it super flexible. So you're going to have to find a middle ground here. And I really think you need to talk to our design team a little bit about what kind of use cases you do want to be able to do, and what kind of use cases are really out of scope, so that you can build a user interface, and of course also the technical side of it that really works. So I really recommend to talk to the design team. I can put let me see if we can link. I can put a link to the design team chat. Give me a second to look it up. Yes, this should work. So I'll put it in the chat. So that's a link to the public design team chat where you can ask our design volunteers and employees for input and ideas there. And they can probably, hopefully help you a bit here. But yeah, you'll really have to do some planning in advance, I think, for this to really work. Some real thinking is needed. Let me see. Then you have the password security check from Johannes Schliephaken, I guess German. Yeah. So the idea is there's the passwords app in Nextcloud, which is a password manager. And the goal for Johannes was to make a proof of concept wizard that does a security check to ensure your passwords are safe. So I think it's an interesting idea. I wonder what it would check. Like you have, of course, have I been pwned, the database that gives you ways to check if there is if your password has leaked. I think that's interesting. Yeah, maybe there are other things you wanted to do, but like describe it maybe a little bit more. But it's absolutely interesting, and it's an addition to an existing app, which is awesome. Because the password app has been around for a long time. It's completely done by volunteers, so you'll of course have to talk to them if they're happy with the improvement. I can't make them take it, but yeah. So then we had a few more questions. So let me try and answer some questions now from the chat. So Ivo, we have a proof of concept working to view a Trello board in Deck. Wow, live already. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, if you have this already working, then it's definitely time to talk to Julius and because he's like, I think Julius, were you the original Deck developer?
Yeah, exactly. Like I started it before working with Nextcloud, and then.
Yeah, exactly. And then we thought that's a cool app. Let's hire the person who did it. You know. Yeah, and now you have so many other things you barely have time for Deck. I'm sorry. Yes, but yeah, Luke, Ivo, I think you and Julius should talk a little bit and show what you've done because it sounds very interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. Ivo asks if there a way to add things to the connect items to a project. Now, Julius might also know about that, but this is the project feature in Nextcloud, which is a little bit orphaned. It's a feature that was implemented at some point, but it turns out that people don't often like to manually connect things with each other. So we have been thinking a lot about how we can do projects in Nextcloud. And the idea behind the feature, for people who are not familiar with it, the idea is that you can connect a file with a chat and with a deck board and with a calendar and with other resources. So like you connect resources with each other, and all you do is to say these are related, so that if you're in talk, you can see the file and the calendar and all the other resources related to that. So they're all linking to each other, and you can go to the file and then you see the chat, and so it's connecting things across applications, which is really cool. But the thing is, you have to do it manually. So we are thinking at the moment of trying to come up with ways to do this more automatically. You know, like if you share a file in a chat room, maybe then the two should be connected, so that if you're looking at a file that you can see that it's in that chat room. I mean, you can look in the sharing, of course, but you know, also with a calendar and with other resources. Like, I don't know, the designers are really thinking about how to do this better because it was never really picked up a lot by people. So it's definitely interesting, of course, and like adding bookmarks and other things that you can connect to a project. I mean, adding more things to it is already possible, I think. I mean, there is a way to do that, an API or something. But I would also maybe discuss first with the design team, like, hey, maybe you can help, you know, evolving the project's feature to a next level. You know, it would be a different project, I'm sure. You know, I would imagine that's not something you do on the side of what is already one of the most ambitious, you know, ideas here, which is to sync Trello and Deck. But hey, you know, yeah, it's an interesting idea. And it is really a feature. I think, I don't know, I think there is a lot of potential there. The question just is like, how should it work from a user perspective? And that's currently a bit unclear. I think there are some proposals. So if you ask in the design chat, then I think some people will be able to point you to existing proposals for this.
Yeah, and maybe one thing to add from my side, like we have documentation for adding new items or new app implementations for that project selector. I can link that in the chat then in a second.
Cool, thanks, Julius. Yeah, so then Ivan knows how to add bookmarks to it, which is totally good idea, right? I mean, it makes the feature more useful as it is now. But we still need to think how we can bring this to another level, hopefully in a way that is compatible, of course. I have to see. All right. Then let me simply, until there are other questions, let me simply continue with the ideas. So there was a collaborative map idea. And this was an idea from Arne, who described this idea that he wants to make the maps, and I think there's about the current Maps app, to make it more collaborative, to make it possible for people to use it with other people to plan trips and share images and live location and, you know, add data to it. So I think the idea here is ask the question about that, like, do you want to make it possible for two people to make changes to the map in real time, or at least to be able to share a map and then you can both put things on the map. I think it was about the second thing, and I love the idea. I think it's really cool because I personally right now are using Google Maps to put like cafes and restaurants I want to visit in Berlin, which is where I live. I put them in Google Maps. And I would love to use NextGov Maps for that. And then even more, if I can then share that map with other people and say, hey, you know, here's a link to a map with really cool cafes in Berlin that you should totally visit. And then the other people can add other cafes to it. Awesome. Like really awesome. So I love that idea. It's totally go for it, Arne. This is really cool. So there was an idea which also I thought was really, really interesting from, again, I hope I'm not butchering your name, but Shiva Saavedra. This is organizational chart of employee contacts. So the idea is to take the contacts book, so the contacts in the address book, and make a graph, an organizational chart out of it, essentially. Because of course in there, and that's the case in our company too, like we use the Nextcloud address book. And in there we have like, of course, well, you know, what company do you work for? Nextcloud. And then like your job position. And then we have groups for like what team people are in. I mean, to be able to generate an organizational chart out of that information with one click of a button is awesome, because I can tell you just before this call, I was discussing with our head of human resources, oh yeah, we need to update the organizational chart again, you know, because we do that manually. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting idea. You might need to add, you know, like a boss of kind of relations between people in the address book. I think it doesn't have that currently, probably, but then it has custom fields, so that might not be magic. And then to generate like an org chart out of it. Brilliant. I really like it. I think it's a really cool idea. Yeah, nice. So there is, Jean had this idea about improving qualified signatures in Nextcloud. So they've developed an app for Nextcloud for signing documents, and they want to basically bring that app to a next level. They want to add USB token certificates that are used a lot in Europe, implement a better way to handle multiple signers in a document, and a way to get SMS OTP confirmation for simple signatures. Yeah, I think this is nice, especially to bring this app further. I personally would not mind a way to sign like PDFs. So I'm a Linux user, and well, my PDF app can totally sign PDFs, but it asks for my key, and I have no idea how I can generate the like a certificate it asks for. You know, to bring this stuff to the browser and to make it easy for people in Nextcloud to sign documents, including PDFs, but also other documents. I think that's very helpful. I think I would recommend one of the things you should really look at is like can you make it possible to install this app with one click? Which is probably not easy. Maybe it's impossible. I don't know exactly what your app does, but we have a couple of other apps that are installing binaries by shipping both an ARM binary and a x86 binary. Like, yes, it's some trickery. It's a bit nasty to do it from PHP, but it will decrease the barrier to adoption for people a lot. And that means that private users like myself can with one click install this app. And I would really look at like what you can do to get a bit more users that way, because if you get more users, that will mean there are more people saying positive things about your app. And that's always a good way, of course, to gain more contributors and to gain maybe customers, etc. So anything you can do to lower the barrier, I would think about that. That's more of a tip, right? I think this project is already interesting and you should certainly consider working on it. Then there's rich documents, and I think Julius replied here already. I don't really understand this, so maybe Julius, you can take this one for a second and give your feedback on that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I actually know about that idea already because Paul brought that up earlier in, I think it was in a Collabora online community call that they have like on a weekly basis. And there Paul initiated kind of an abstraction layer for the WOPI protocol that Collabora is using, and has already back then suggested that it would be a nice improvement for especially like for the code base and the code architecture of the Rich Documents app that we have for the Collabora online integration, to actually make use of that library. So I think while that is not like a feature that users might want, this is definitely something that is like helping us in terms of let's say long-term maintainability of the Rich Documents app, and to make the code cleaner and more maintainable also in the future. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that covers that. Pierre asked a question. He wanted to get our comment on the planning around groups. Julius might have seen this question too. He points out that there are many group things in Nextcloud. There's a Nextcloud group, so that's like of the users on the server. There's a contacts group, so in the contacts app, the address book, you can create groups of your contacts. Then there is circles, which are essentially kind of in between those two. They are groups. There you can for example share a file to them, or you can create a talk room for a circle. Circles are a little bit like social media groups in a way, because people can also join circles. They can look at circles. They can request to join a circle. There can be moderation on that. You can invite people to a circle, etc. So it's like self-managed Nextcloud groups essentially. I think the Nextcloud talk groups are actually well, I guess that's just a chat room. It's not really much of a group. It's just a chat room with X members. And you can actually already share a file to such a group by sharing it in the chat room. And then it's also shared to all the members, all the people in that call, which is also, in a way, you could consider that a group, I suppose. And yeah, you're entirely right. You say, comment on it. Well, yeah, this is of course messy. We want to decrease this number of groups. But, well, we have to do that in a way that doesn't break people's way of working, right? If you have configured a lot of contact groups and we merge it with circles, that can have all kinds of consequences. Plus, circles at the moment are only working within your Nextcloud instance or between Nextcloud instances. Of course, you can have in your address book people who have no Nextcloud server at all. So what happens if you would merge the two and then you share a file to a circle, and in the circle are people who don't have a Nextcloud account? Do they get a public link by mail? Maybe, but that might not be possible for DEC. So there are a lot of open questions there, and we're planning on trying to improve this, but how and when, I don't have answers to. This is one of the things where meeting together is always very good. So hopefully at a future Nextcloud meeting, we will discuss these things. Maybe Ulysse has something to add here, because I think he's part of these conversations.
Yeah, not much in general. I just like in the Rocket chat also linked a public discussion on our server repository where this, that kind of topic has been discussed quite extensively already, and I think there was also not really a decision to move into one or the other direction, but it's a like ongoing complicated, let's say, discussion that needs to get sorted out in some way.
Yeah, step by step.
Of course, like everyone is welcome to join that, as usual with any GitHub issue. Like, we're open for ideas there.
Yeah, at the moment, I mean, last time I saw the discussion, I had the feeling that we will probably first try to merge circles and contact groups, so to bring, to decrease the complexity in the address book, and then to see if we can merge that somehow. Well, we can't merge it probably with the Nextcloud user groups, because this is really managed by the administrator, while your address book is managed by you. So the best we can probably do is to have an address book of the users or something like that. So there will be some interface between the two. And I think there is already, an app for that allows you to see all your users on the system as one of the address books in your address book app. That kind of bridges those two already. And I think if we manage to do that, maybe, just a crazy idea, who knows, maybe then we'll create a circle for every, talk group or talk room. And then you would have it all integrated. But that's what might get messy. I don't know. But yeah, we're thinking about this stuff for sure. And ideas are welcome, as Julius said. All right, I have two more. One more I wanted to look at, and then tell me in the chat, please, if I forgot some, because the one I wanted to look at was the sorting pictures by taken date instead of modification date. So this is about, extending enhancing the picture sorting by using the time when the picture was taken from the EXIF metadata. I know there is some discussion about, has been some discussion about like being able to read metadata when we are uploading a file. This is a surprisingly complicated subject actually for Nextcloud, because you would think that adding, metadata handling to Nextcloud is relatively simple, right? You just add it to the database. Sure, but you need to get it in the database. And that is simple when somebody just uploads a file, because you're handling it anyway, reading the metadata while you're uploading the file. This doesn't put any extra load on the server, at least not significantly. However, we have, of course, a concept of external storage. So I can add a 8 terabyte hard drive with my pictures over the last 10 years to Nextcloud. To then read in all the metadata and put it in a database means that my Nextcloud server is going to be busy for the next 3 months. And if you don't do it carefully, completely overloaded. So this is not as simple as it seems. Like the displaying and sorting is not so hard. And getting the metadata in a kind of limited use case is also not so hard. But we have to think about all the ways in which Nextcloud is used. And you can't always assume that of every file you have metadata. Of course, if you limit it to photos, it gets a bit simpler, but there are other reasons why we want to use metadata. So we've been discussing this a little bit, thinking like, okay, we'd like to have universal metadata reading something, but this is not like, I'm kind of worried this is not a 1 week project. But maybe doing it as a more like, limited focus, of course, and just say, look, I'm going to do this only for the pictures that are uploaded, right? Only for primary storage and only for photos. It is, of course, still a good feature and a good step forward. And, maybe we should not delay something that's useful and good just because it doesn't solve every problem under the sun. So I hope you don't feel discouraged by me saying like, you know, woo. Like discuss it also again with the design team. Maybe Julius has input on this as well. You know what the best approach is. Julius, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so actually, like I think that would be something to also get in touch with like some of our engineers in the community chat, because we had some parts of the like storing the metadata on the backend side merged even for Nextcloud 24. So there were some parts where we already worked on, and some are being in progress. I think it might be the best to like check by in the community chat and see there what the best way to move that forward would be.
Yeah, so maybe some of the hard parts of like getting the metadata might already be there or can be extended. That would be nice, of course. Yeah, so I do like the idea, to be clear, because I use the Photos app. And to be able to sort on the date that was taken instead of something which is completely irrelevant for photos, like the file name. Yes, please. Like, very good. And then, of course, also other metadata, right? Because it's not just the date, but also the location, which you can already view. I think the Maps app has some feature where it tries to view that, but this is all not so simple. And also related, I think, to this. So, yeah, really cool idea. So, question now is, did I miss any ideas? Like, skip any of them? Are any other questions? Please ask.
Amazing. I was not expecting that, Jos.
Expecting what?
Normally, checkpoint meetings in previous hackathons, they are very, very quiet. People are shy, but I see that we tackle all ideas, and maybe that's the result of in advance presenting what you want to do. So yeah, very productive session. So no more questions?
Yeah, look, a lot of good ideas. Seriously, some of them make me really excited. I really hope that they succeed. It's awesome. Seriously.
Great. Yeah. I also see that now it's like a train. You can stop it. Huh? It's all they are going ahead. So we are very, very happy for that. And yes, if there are no more questions, we still have a second session on Friday. So, and in the meantime, of course, you can contact Jos, the mentors, myself via Rocket Chat, or there are different ways. So very, very good. Okay, no more questions. Okay, well.
We'll wait a little bit more.
Okay,
for Julius, but I think Julius will answer that to Ivo in the chat. So then, I think let's wrap it up, and let's see you all on Friday.
Yeah. So great. Keep on like this. Happy hacking, and then talk more on Friday. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.